Everybody say hi to Coach. To Coach. It's to Flat Earth Dave. Everybody say hi.
Flat Earth Coach Dave. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, there we have another speaker, but that's a whole nother story. Um, Dave, thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know that you have a lot of engagements. Um, so why don't you begin here? Talk to us a little bit about kind of why this is a big issue. Why do we need to be learning more about this?
Yeah, so we've been trained to believe flat Earth is really stupid. Just real quick, and I'll get into answering that question. This is the flat Earth from 127,000 feet. This is a balloon showing the sun, which is supposedly 93 million miles away, a distance you can't fathom. But for some reason, it looks like a local light, and it's lighting up just this hot spot over here. To me, it doesn't look that it's much higher than the balloon. Uh, they want you to believe that this is flat Earth. This is not flat Earth. This is the dumbest thing ever. But when you Google flat Earth, that's what comes up, and they want you to see that. And then the number one question is, are we the only flat planet? This is two fake models together, a fake flat Earth with a fake heliocentric model. So they're giving you choice A and choice B. It's kind of like, vote red or blue. They're both by the same system. Um, the where is it going here? So here's just a quick thing. This is a school hallway, and we have some lights down there, the windows, and they're just going across a flat floor. This is the sun going across a flat ocean. The ocean would need to be curved 8 inches per mile squared for the Earth to be the size that they tell us. And there would be 6 feet of curvature just at 3 miles, but there's not. We can see things way beyond that. This is the heliocentric model. They teach us that we're all going around the sun, but they don't teach us really that the sun is moving a 500,000 miles per hour. So this is where you think that you believe, this is where you live. The problem is kids don't question this. Adults don't even question it because this is what science, quotation marks, because science is not using the scientific method. We're traveling 4.4 billion miles a year, never to return to where we were before, but somehow the patterns of all the stars in the sky never change, ever. Okay? That's insanity. So why do we need to learn more about this? Because this is the lie that keeps us slaves. This is the lie that has them playing on their fake world with their fake money that keeps us slaves to the corporate controllers of this world. They want you to work your life away and then retire and die. That's what they want. Sounds kind of radical, but unfortunately, the controllers of this world do not have our best interest in mind. They want their power is all they have in mind. So what does flat Earth do? What does knowing the shape of the Earth do? It does nothing. It does nothing for you. The shape of the Earth isn't what matters. It's the lie that matters. It's the lie of who you are, where you are, your position in it, your true power, and all of the stuff that they're hiding from you, from free energy to more land to more information. All of our history is a lie. And as I said in the first class, your history teacher, your biology teacher, your science teachers, they're not lying. Excuse me. They're not lying. They are regurgitating the information that they were taught in school. So if you want to become a teacher, memorize everything in the textbook perfectly, and then you will be able to teach that information provided by the Rockefellers to the next generation. It's only when you actually think for yourself. In our world, basically, if you question established science, then you're a radical. The truth is, science always changes based on new information. So I didn't wake up one morning and go, oh, you know what? I'm going to alienate myself from 99% of the world by saying the Earth is flat. I woke up and I looked and I tried to disprove flat Earth. I tried to prove the globe, and I tried and I tried and I tried. And then the more I looked at it, the more I realized how crazy the globe model is. Here's the thing that you can say about all flat earthers. We know more about the heliocentric globe model than you do. If you knew 1/10 of what we know about your model, you would be a flat earther because the heliocentric model is absolutely absurd. And we all look back and go, how did I ever believe that? So let's go into questions.
Thank you. Let me read a couple of questions off of what we devised yesterday. So if the Earth is flat, why don't people just fall off of it?
Yeah, so that's what we've all been trained to believe. But in reality, this is what they want you to believe. You could fall off the edge. Large bodies of water at rest need containment. Okay, a tub, bathtub, move the side of the tub, water's gone. A pond, what holds the water in? It's the land all the way around the pond that's higher than the water. Right, lower some of the land, boom, you got a river. The water will flow away. Um, the world pond, excuse me, the world pond is where we live, and the land that contains it out here is called Antarctica. We don't know what's out here. 60 degrees south, this pink line, you're not allowed to independently explore. If you want to spend now 10, 20, $50,000, they'll take you to this little peninsula right here, the little island called Deception Island or Rothschild Island, and that's it. They'll show you some penguins, they'll show you some ice, but nobody's allowed to independently explore out here. So what did they do? Right? What if there's more ponds out there or other lands even within our pond? There's big areas of the Southern Ocean that are we don't know what's there. There could be other continents there. Just last year, Japan found 7,000 new islands that they never knew were there because GPS kept them away from it. GPS is run by NASA, and we get into that. We'll see what happened. You'll see why that should raise suspect. I took that map, I cut it out, I wrapped it around a ball, and I said, they say this is Antarctica. This is where you're not allowed to explore. No one's allowed to cross over. No one's gone from Santiago to Australia. Never been done. They go all the way up and around the other way for some reason. And when you look at that on a flat Earth map, it makes perfect sense. All right.
Next question. Do you think there is an equator? If so, where is it?
Yeah, so this is how the Earth works. Let me make this a little bigger so you guys can see it. So the North Pole is at the center of the clock, the sky clock. The sky is the most accurate clock in the world because all watches, clocks are based on the sky. The sun is the hour hand, and it goes around once every 24 hours. That outer yellow line that you see the sun right near, that's called the Tropic of Capricorn. The sun is over it on December 21st. So that's where Australia, which we're coming up upon, has its summer, height of their summer, height of our northern winter, right? Then the sun will migrate to June. In June, I moved it to July. Whoops. Let me go around again. September, March, April, May, June. So in June, the sun is all the way inside on the Tropic of Cancer, that inner circle, that inner yellow line, right? It's hot in Miami in June because the sun goes right over them. The heat source is directly over them. For me in Connecticut, I look, even in June, the sun is off it's a little south. It's south of me, south. It's lower in the sky because it's farther away. It's a little colder than it is in Miami. So the tropics are all the space in between the two tropics. Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, and the line halfway in between them, that's the equator. So when on March 21st and September 21st, that's the equinox. That's when the sun is over the equator. And wherever the sun is, it's hot in the tropics because the sun crosses over everything twice a year. For us in the north, it only comes near us and then it goes away. And in the outer south, it comes near us and away. If you're in the middle here, the sun is arcing around you. I call that the Arctic. And if you're out here, the sun comes towards you and then it goes away. That's kind of called the Antarctic. Interesting names. Next question.
Yeah, next question. How deep is the Earth? What is on the underside of the Earth?
Yeah, so the deepest hole ever dug is called the Kora borehole in Russia. The United States and Russia worked on it for years. And as they were drilling down, they were using ground penetrating radar to see what was next, and they were wrong. Hey, there's no more rocks. They hit rocks. Hey, there's no more water. They hit water. So they were wrong every step of the way. Every step of the way, they were wrong. Okay, so how do they know what the center of the earth is? If they were wrong every step of the way for 8 miles, all of a sudden they know what the next 4,000 miles is. Oh, and by the way, when it got to 7.8 miles, I think it was, they hit an impenetrable barrier. They couldn't get through it. They tried blowing it up. They tried with diamonds. They tried everything, and they literally could not get through it. The word impenetrable, an impenetrable barrier. So the if you said the earth was an apple with a thin skin, like a Macintosh apple, they drilled like a fraction of the way through the skin and they got it wrong, but then all of a sudden they know what the core is. And what do they teach you in school with this meme, which is unscientific? This is a pseudoscience meme. They teach you that it's a molten magnetic core. There's a thing called the Curie point. Any magnet that's heated before it melts, it will lose all its magnetism. You can do this yourself. Get a neodymium magnet, get a blowtorch, and make it hot, and then let it cool off, and there's no more magnetism. You can't have a molten magnet. This is what they tell you is at the center of our Earth. So what's underneath the Earth? Nobody on flat Earth and nobody on globe Earth knows.
And then, so in terms of the middle of the Earth, we're not sure. Is there an underside of the Earth? In other words,
Yeah, so we don't know what's below 7.8 miles. There could an impenetrable barrier kind of sounds like a firmament to me. The firmament is the sky above us. We believe that there's a plasma field that starts at 72 miles, and that above that it becomes water, and above that is a solid firmament. And what's above there? I don't think that's for humans to know, but let me just show you real quick of an example of, when NASA sends up rockets, they all just curve up and curve out and they crash into the ocean. Neil deGrasse Tyson, because of all the publicity we were giving this, recently put out a video that 90 some odd percent of the fuel on a rocket is to get it downrange, not up, right? Well, why is it curving down and crashing into the Bermuda Triangle? That's where they all go. They go right into the Bermuda Triangle. But what I want to show you here is the Go Fast rocket. This is an independent rocket that, fortunately for us, showed us some stuff they wouldn't want us to see. This is sponsored by Red Bull, and we have an uninterrupted view down. NASA, if you watch any of their videos, SpaceX, cut, edit. It's a movie. It went up 72 miles, and if you heard the sound on this, you hear it. It goes kerplunk, like into a thicker medium, right? That's interesting in itself. It stopped rotating all of a sudden too. And so while it's floating up there, 72 miles up, when it turned on its side, we saw something very interesting. We saw the moon. So you ready? Here it comes. The moon is right there. That's the moon. We zoom in on it. It's absolutely the moon. The Earth kind of looks flat there. Why does that matter? Right? Well, it took off in Arizona at 11 a.m. Here's the sun at noon, right? Time zones go all the way across. And the moon was over Australia. So if that rocket was on the top of a basketball, it went a fraction of a millimeter over that basketball, and the moon was on the floor below the basketball. How do we see the moon? How do we see the moon? Next.
Okay. Now, what do you explain communication satellites?
So satellites are very, very interesting. You have to believe that if you ever stood next to a 747, it's gigantic, huge, giant plane. Put a 747 up at cruising altitude, and it is literally the size of a tiny little speck in the sky. We've all seen it. And when you look up at a 747 at cruising altitude, it is tiny, and you can't see the engines. You can see the shape of the plane, but you can't see the engines, right? It's just a little dot, right? We see this trail coming out of the back of it, right? but you can't even see the engine. Okay. The engine is huge compared to a satellite, right? But we have SpaceX satellites up there that are the size of a school desk. You probably fit 30 of them inside of an engine, and they're 300 miles up versus 7 miles up where an airplane flies. How do you think that you can actually see a satellite? So what are satellites? What are they? NASA, as I think I said in this show, NASA controls all of the helium in the world, right? NASA has balloon programs where they put up balloons with satellites on them up to 8,000 pounds. They have tens of thousands of these things all over the earth. And sometimes they're crashing all over the place. Satellites are crashing all over the earth. And every time one comes down, it has a balloon attached to it. Okay. What is oops, that's not what I wanted to show. So this is what I wanted to show, I think. Yeah, this is launching a balloon in Antarctica with a satellite on it. This is what NASA controls all of the helium. So we see balloons up there. Now, what about communications? I don't believe that they really help us with communications. I think that satellite phones basically are very strong cell phones that connect to the closest tower, which is farther than one could reach, or if you're in the middle of nowhere, it'll connect to the nearest airplane, commercial jetliner, and they'll relay you to a tower elsewhere. And that's all it is. That's how they get away with it. And that's what's called a satellite phone.
You mentioned a lot, David, about NASA, and most folks see them as engaging in space exploration, but you seem to have your concerns about their true intentions. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, NASA was created, and we went to the moon. It was created to keep people in the lie, because when you discover that you're not on a globe flying through an infinite universe, you discover that you are at the center of creation and that you are important. Here is NASA celebrating Christmas in 2023 on the space station. Pretty cool, right? But here they did the same thing back in 1999, and what happened is the gravity is on. Look at all their things, their Santa hats, right? Gravity on, gravity off, gravity on, gravity off. Interesting. That's interesting. Maybe they held them down. Maybe they were bobby pinned down. Who knows? But if we look at stuff on the space station, it's undeniable once you look. If you catch them faking something once, then you have to ask, why are they faking it? Here, they just got a new delivery, and they had some fresh fruit. They had a lemon, and they were playing with it, and it went flying across the room, and they grabbed it. This is called augmented reality. It's not real. The lemon's not real. They're manipulating a fake CGI lemon, and if you look very carefully, watch the hand go through the lemon. Okay, this is showing you that they're faking it. This is literally 100% proof that they're faking it. We have hundreds of these, of screw ups where here's one where a guy is showing you something and he drops it. He dropped it, and why did it go down? He dropped it, and then he's looking around. He's really nervous. He dropped it, and he had to catch it because it was actual real object. He's hanging from wires, doing a little trick. Here is one where Chris Hadfield always he likes singing. Chris Hadfield is in another studio than this guy. This guy's holding the microphone, misplaces where Chris is supposed to be, and sticks the microphone inside of his neck, right? The microphone is in his neck. This, again, is showing you that they're completely faking with all sorts of different techniques. Here's a guy. Right, they're always holding their arms. Weird stuff's going on. Watch his arm here. When he moves it real quick, he reveals the green screen behind him. I have a green screen behind me. Right there, it is, a green screen right there. Where's that coming from? And that's just a little glitch that they had. Here is one where it's real quick. This guy, these guys in the front. We're talking about stuff. Way in the background, this guy goes floating by. I zoomed in on him. You can see the harness. You can see his harness. This was supposed to be screened out. For some reason, they didn't do it, or maybe they didn't think we would zoom in, right? And then this guy in the front, they're always flipping something around. So he's flipping his baseball cap around. I'm going to show you that in a second. And this guy in the green, he's supposed to take it and put it over on the shelf on the wall. So watch this. Here he goes. He's gonna this guy. Jump forward a little bit. He's gonna flip it. He's flipping the hat around, and he moves his hand. And the guy thinks that he's passing him this CGI object. So watch. He moves his hand. He moves his hand. And he thinks he's passing it to him. He takes it and he puts it away. I just keep repeating it. See, then he went to hand him the hat. He's like, "Oops." And then this guy freaked out. If you watch the whole video, it's very, very interesting. One more, and then we'll move to the next question. This is one where they show us two different tricks. This ball is filled with helium. It's just neutrally buoyant. Look up here. Do you see? Oh, where did that come from? So this is them maneuvering a fake object. They even put a little beam in, like Star Trek. What are they doing? Right? Watch again. And they even had a little beaming noise. This isn't real. If you can't see that, then you could be a little too deep in the sauce. All right, next.
Just to follow up, and then we'll move on to other topics there. But do you feel that NASA is part of a larger conspiracy, that's kind of a front for something? And you indicated earlier you're concerned that that people were being deceived on this issue, so they could be deceived on other issues.
NASA was created to keep people away from Antarctica, because when Admiral Byrd in 1959, 58 went to did Project High Jump, High Land, said he discovered more land bigger than the United States on the other side of the South Pole. Wait a minute. The other side of the South Pole from where they were coming from would put them in between South America. No, put them in between Johannesburg, South Africa, and Australia. Do you think that the people over there would notice land bigger than the United States on the other side? Of course. So he went on a news show and mentioned that, and then 6 months later, he died in his sleep. So that's interesting, and you get into the whole thing with Admiral Byrd. It's very, very interesting, but I think that NASA is the World Intelligence Agency. I think they are above everything else, and they are the ones that are controlling everything.
One more question, and I'm going to open up for you guys to ask questions. Okay. And again, let me just, are earthquakes real, and what is their cause? We just heard about one that occurred in Japan not recently.
Yeah, that was a big one. Well, there's admitted that they have frequency weapons that can create earthquakes. Now, are there natural earthquakes? 100%. Are there man-made earthquakes? Yes, 100%. When you look into that, but here's an earthquake, a tiny little shaking of the earth, and this pool, the water goes crazy, right? The water goes absolutely insane. But you have to believe that we're spinning, whirling, and twirling through space. And somehow water doesn't do that. We're speeding up and slowing down, curving. Now, there people say, well, I'm on an airplane, I can drink water and go to the bathroom. Well, take the outside shell off that airplane, double the speed of the airplane to match the spin of the earth, and nosedive down at a mile per minute. Let me know how your water's doing. Because like if you're in a car going 50 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, out perfectly straight road, get a dinner plate, fill it with water, and if that car takes the slightest turn, speeds up or slows down the slightest bit, that water's gone. But somehow, we have water that will just stay perfectly calm, right? We have water like this, right? What does this tell you? Whoops, I'm hidden. And supposedly we're whirling and twirling like that. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Okay. Thank you. All right, let's open up for some questions here. Christopher, I need to start us off.
So, assuming your model would flights in the southern hemisphere not take like remarkably longer than those in the northern hemisphere since the circumference is a lot larger?
Great question. Yeah, flights in the south do. So think about this. We got a ball. You got the equator. Top half is the northern hemisphere, and the top is so we here the top is northern hemisphere, and if we draw the equator on here, where am I going? Here we go. Draw the equator on here. So you got the north, you got the south, and you got all these airplanes up here. So going from any airport to any other airport in the north, from a north airport to another north airport, would a plane ever need to go below the equator? And the answer is no, it wouldn't. And guess what? No plane going from a northern airport to another northern airport ever crosses the equator. Okay, because it makes no sense. Why would you go here and down and back up? Right? That makes no sense. You just go across. Even from over here to over here, you'd go maybe this way or that way, whatever. Never goes across. The problem is southern flights, southern airports should do the same, right? They should do the same. They should never go below the equator. But unfortunately, southern flights, here's one from Rio to Sydney, it stops in Los Angeles. Okay. It goes from here all the way up across the equator and then all the way back down. Why didn't it just fly across here? And the answer is here's the flight path. Boom. It goes right there. Let's look at another one, right? The flight paths absolutely 100% prove the flat earth. Here's three different flights from South Africa to Australia. They go up to Dubai and to Hong Kong and to Malaysia, up and down. If we look at that on a flat earth, let's see what it looks like. Looks a little more reasonable, don't you think? Let me show you some more. These are important. Here is Sydney to Lima, Peru, stops in Los Angeles, up and down. Los Angeles, right on the flight route. Interesting. Okay. Here's one from Wellington to Lima, Peru. Again, stops in Los Angeles. More direct flight route. Let me just find some other ones here. Here is so here's something. Excuse me. Here's something. People say, well, they got to go there, pick up their passengers, change crews. It's their hub. You can make excuses all day, but occasionally there's an emergency. Someone's having a baby. Somebody is having a heart attack, whatever, and you got to do an emergency landing. So here is where am I looking for? Here is an emergency that happened from New York City to Hawaii and stopped in Seattle. So New York City to Hawaii. Seattle is 1,000 miles, close to 1,000 miles out of the way. But on a flat Earth, Seattle's right there. And they got there in like 15 minutes. Okay, let's look at another one. Here's one. They went to Moscow, right? London to Pakistan, emergency stop in Moscow, like way out of the way. It's a huge amount of distance. Moscow, just coincidentally on a flat Earth map, is on that straight line in between. Again, another stop in Moscow. Again, Moscow's right on the line. Calgary, straight on that line, right? And then we'll show you one more. This one is very interesting. Here's the flight route from Hong Kong. They were going all the way to the UK, but 12 hours in, they stopped in Germany. 4 hours into the flight, this mother dies. She's dead in her seat. Little kids, husband sitting next to her, right? So the mom's dead, and they flew for 8 more hours before landing. That is unheard of. Why is that? Why is that? And what happens is on a flat Earth, 4 hours later, they were over Russia. So if they landed in Russia, they'd have to explain why they were flying over Russia. And people like me might say, you're flying over Russia because the Earth is flat. So they couldn't land in Russia. So they had to wait until they got to Germany. At that point, why didn't they just get the people home? Right? So again, there's more than 16. There's a book called 16 Emergency Landings. Again, every time they go out of their way, they get there in an impossible amount of time. And the place that they stop happens to be on that line. So just answering your question, decided to go so long. Going from Santiago to Australia, that's really long. And the people argue that you can go from New York to the UK or something. It takes the same amount of time. The answer is planes fly at different speeds. And there's air currents that they take. You know, the long distance flights, they go up to like 45,000 feet. There's 300-mile-an-hour tailwinds that they get that are very predictable. And they fly at different speeds. So they're, again, on my app, again, we don't have time to get into it, but on the app, if you go to the frequently asked questions and you go over to Southern Flights, I believe that's it. Southern Star Rotation. Where's Southern Flights? Southern Flights over there somewhere. Southern Flights, and there it is. Southern Flights, right? Right. Whoops. Whatever. Southern Flights. Right there. Okay. And you can learn all about Southern Flights.
Who else has a question here? I think Hizzy, and then we'll move on.
So my question is, you said in Antarctica, there's a Rothschild Island. Do you believe that they're one of the elite families that control the world?
Well,
they own that island and deceive us?
I never said that at all. I said that the Rothschilds are an elite royal family that control all the banking of the world, all the central banks. If you look into central banks, what the heck the United States doesn't print money. They borrow money from the Rothschild Central Bank, which is privately owned, and they have to pay it back at interest, which makes it impossible to pay it back because the money doesn't exist. So you have to borrow more money to pay back the interest. Once you understand what money is, that's very interesting. So, I just said I find it very interesting that the name of the island that they take you to is Rothschild Island. That's very interesting. I don't know who owns it. I don't know anything about it, but it's just interesting.
All right, we get Johan here.
All right, so my question is imagine if you're at a beach and you see a ship take off, if you wait 20 minutes it disappears, how can you how does that work? Can you explain it to me?
Yeah.
Why we,
yeah. Yeah, I got you. And one of the movies that they show us in school in a young grade is they show us this triple-masted ship, and they show it going farther and farther away, and they keep editing the video. Two things you'll notice: one, there's a ton of waves. It's a very, very stormy day, and each time they show you the next clip or the more the ship is missing, is they lower the camera. They lower the camera. So there's a thing called what I call the wave front edge. So we're looking up. That's not what I want to show you. So we're zooming in. You can't even see the ships out here, but as we zoom in, they get bigger, and all of a sudden we can see them, right? So now if we look at the ship, it's behind the curve of the earth. Cool. Or is it just behind a wave? Right? Because we can see the water beyond that ship. Look at this one. Is that behind the curve of the earth? Or is it just behind a wave? Things in the distance get smaller, and the waves in the foreground, like my finger can't hide my face unless my finger was closer to the camera. Just like these little waves in the foreground can hide these ships in the background. So that's all it is there. That is just a trick that they do. Let me just show you a good one of zooming in. So when you zoom in on a terrestrial object, you don't see a ship here, right? But as we zoom in, we're increasing the angular size. And as we increase the angular size, all of a sudden you go, oh, look, there's a ship. There it is. Didn't see it before. Now my finger, watch, as we zoom in, we're going to see more and more of the ship, right? My finger can't hide that ship, but if my finger was in the foreground closer, look at the ship. It's going to disappear from the bottom up because of the waves in the foreground. Right. Let me show you. This might go to another question, but this is worth me showing, and I think we have time. How perspective works. Flat earthers will say the horizon rises to your eye level, and it certainly does appear to do that. Right. So here's what I call. Well, I don't have time to show you that. Let's just do this. So here we have a building, and we're looking up at the building. We're looking straight up in the air. So here's this. Whoops. That's not what I want to show you either. 1 second. Here we go. So we're looking straight up and we're seeing this sun go beyond the building. It's going beyond the building. So your common sense tells you the sun's just being blocked by the building. It's not below the horizon. It's just beyond the building. So if I went up, I could see the sun again. Or if I went back and had a better view of that building, I'd be able to see it. So just remember that. Okay. Here's an example. The sun is beyond these buildings. But if I go backwards and I push the buildings into the distance, the buildings get really small and all of a sudden I can see the sun. And if the sun keeps going away, it's just going beyond the buildings. Now, this looks like my horizon, but those buildings are thousands of feet above, above my eye line. So let's just look at this a little more. So here we have perspective, a perspective grid. This is how we see. This guy's eye line is right here. So I throw a mountain in here. This mountain is thousands of feet above his eyes. We've got the sun up here. The sun just moves beyond the mountain, just like it went beyond the building. Now, how could we see the sun again if he goes backwards? Let's bring him backwards 25 miles, and there's the sun, because the mountains look like they're at his eye level. They appear to be at his eyes level, but they're thousands of feet above his eyes. And as the sun moves away, it goes beyond those elevated mountains that appear at eye level, thousands of feet above his head. And it's not below it, it's just beyond. So now we had the clouds, which are above the mountain. The clouds merge into the horizon. The sun goes beyond that horizon. What can we say about this horizon? This horizon is the cloud deck, which is thousands of feet above the mountain, which is thousands of feet above his eyes, but it all appears at eye level. Everything goes beyond, and that's how the sun sets. It goes beyond, it takes its light with it. All right, go ahead, next.
Roman?
So you said that like kind of these like this like main central group is the one that are controlling us. Do you think anyone in our government is actually on our side of like being controlled, or do you think everyone in our government is controlling us?
That's a great question. And the power structure doesn't let people get to too high of positions unless they're in the club. You know, if you listen to George Carlin, there's a big club and you're not in it. The real people that have power, they're above. So are there any good people in government? Sure. There are, and they're doing their best. But they don't really get to a position of power where they can most of the time, but maybe that's changing.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mackenzie.
So I believe that NASA is controlling a lot of what we see and what we believe and how it keeps us from Antarctica. Obviously, there's other space stations and other space organizations in the world. What do you believe about them? Because NASA is specifically with the US. So what do you think about the other parts of the world?
Yeah, it's funny that the International Space Station, the most incredible advanced construction project, they forgot to film it. There's no film or pictures of it ever being built. And the same thing happened. China now has a space station, and this is a video they put out. If you believe this, you're just lost in the sauce. And they also forgot to film it, right? Here is a scene that they were doing something, and there's a glass of water. That's a glass of water. How do you have a glass of water sitting on a counter on a 0G space station, right? That's a problem. And here's something they showed. Wow, the Earth is flat. Wait, no, it's not flat. It's a pear, right? So what are they showing us here? What is going on here? The amount of stuff they put out there that is just complete and total garbage is amazing. So here, let me show you our space station. These people are hanging from wires. It's clear. They have harnesses on. They get tangled in the wires all the time. Let me see which one this was. And they always have somebody with long hair. Would they ever allow anyone with long hair on the space station? This is all just tricks to make people go, ooh and ah. Next.
Hi, you have a question.
Yeah, do you believe gravity is just a theory?
Well, that's what science tells us, that it is just a theory, that, you know, we're taught Newtonian gravity, and that mass attracts mass. And then recently they changed it to Einsteinian gravity with the bending and warping of space-time. And the reason that you can't figure out what that is because it's dumb. It's just nonsense that to confuse your mind. Think about this. The sun is holding on to Venus, Mercury, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, everything, all the way out to Pluto. It's amazing. And Jupiter has more gravity than all of the other planets, although it's made out of helium and hydrogen. Where how much helium and hydrogen do you need to make gravity? Because it defies gravity. And we get these planetary alignments all the time. And nothing ever gets yanked out of place. Everything works perfectly all of the time. How come we don't have things pulling things? And how come the sun doesn't pull the moon towards it when it comes around the earth and slow it down when it goes away? There's a thing called the three-body problem. The three-body problem says in a computer they can make a model with two bodies. You got a sun and a planet, put it in orbit, and it'll know exactly what it's going to do forever. But then when they try three bodies, this is just a demonstration with three bodies of the same size, let alone different. It goes into random chaos mode, and no supercomputer in the world can figure out what it's going to do next. It just goes into random mode. But somehow we have trillions and trillions and trillions of bodies in the sky orbiting around each other, changing directions, going all over the place, and none of the stars ever change. None of the stars ever change, right? Never in your lifetime or in all of history have two stars changed positions. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. If you look at, if you think about it, all right, well, no, I was going somewhere else. This is about gravity. So, yeah, do I think gravity is a theory? They tell us gravity is a theory. I think electrostatics is which is provable, testable, measurable, and we can do experiments. We can make things heavier. We can make things lighter. We can make things float with electrostatics. The secret space program, I call it the secret propulsion program because they're using electrostatics to elevate, to make things fly.
All right, we got about 5 minutes left. Adela?
Sun only circles like on top of the clock face of the Earth. Like, where are all the other planets? And do they not have night or day or sun?
Well, the only thing that we can say about planets is, the only one that shows us pictures of them, and that no one will show us a photograph, right? Is that they're images, right? This is from NASA. Whoops. This is from NASA saying that this is Jupiter. Okay. This is Jupiter, right? That's weird. And then they show us, oh, this is Jupiter, right? Then they show us, oh, this is Jupiter, right? These are just artist renderings. Never ever will they use the word photograph when they're talking about planets, right? This is this is Jupiter from 2022. And here's the famous picture of Jupiter from 2014. We've all seen it's in every textbook. And then they showed us 2016. They're like, oh, Jupiter must have a magnetic core. We can see the northern lights. Look at this. This is stupid. It's all the clouds. These are cloud systems that are exactly the same from over 2 years apart. That makes, that is just impossible. Impossible. If NASA showed you this and said, are these spherical or are these flat? It doesn't matter because these are the bottoms of frying pans, right? NASA, the stuff that they show us is literally complete and total garbage, but they will admit that it's CGI. And just real quick, this is what Mars really looks like when you zoom in on it, right? Our consumer optics have outgrown their lies. This is an energetic orb of light, and I don't know what it is, but they're all named after gods for some reason. This is Venus. Right? This is Sirius.
So Dave, just to follow up then. So are you saying that planets are basically manufactured by NASA to deceive us?
Well, the planets used to be called wandering stars before NASA came into play. And if you look up, and I encourage you, go out tonight, find Jupiter. It is so bright in the sky right now. It's literally like a little piece of the sun. So you have to believe that Jupiter, the dusty, dirty gas ball that it is, if you were on Jupiter, NASA says the sun would be tiny, it'd be the size of like a pencil eraser. And so you have to believe that distant small sun is lighting up Jupiter. It's reflecting off of the non-reflective surface, coming back to your eye here and ignoring the inverse square law of light that spreads light out and makes it dimmer. And we see it that bright. That is scientifically impossible, but they don't teach you about the inverse square law of light in school because you'd be like, wait, why am I seeing it that bright? It makes no sense. The moon would have to be brighter than the sun for us to see the full moon, the brightness that we see at the distance they tell us. None of this stuff makes sense. All of the stuff that you're told in these science books is pseudoscience. It's all based on the radius of the earth that they made up one day when the light that we call Venus transited the sun. And they said, well, Venus is the same size as Earth. How do they know that? They don't know anything. It's all pseudoscience.
Time for one last question here. Ezra, you haven't.
So if you go back to the like the clock picture,
Yeah.
like the sun goes like around in circles. So how does like okay, so the sun rises and sets, but if it revolves around the way it does there, wouldn't it go left to right?
It rises in the east and sets in the west. So east and west are circles around the center point. So the center point of the earth is the North Pole. So a magnet would point towards the center, and then east and west are circles around it. That's the same on a globe earth and a flat earth. So east and west are circles. Billions of people have circumnavigated the world east and west. Zero have circumnavigated south because the earth is flat and you can't circumnavigate south. South is that way. South is that way. South is also that way and that way. South is every direction away from the north. So this is west. This is east.
David.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah, we have to wrap it up because the bell just rang. We want to thank you for presenting to us.
Okay. All right, check out flatearthdave.com. Go to the crash course, watch those videos, turn off Netflix for a week, and it'll change your life.